Is the motorcycle industry in a healthy situation? Are sales down? And a dealership's closing? Let's get into it. Hello, welcome to RevelatorAlf. I hope you're all well. If you like what I do here, don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell for all future videos. So, are motorcycle sales down? Is the industry in a good position? And are dealerships closing down with alarming regularity? Well, I don't want to say it's all doom and gloom. Of course not, because there's been lots of highs. There have been lots of manufacturers who are doing rather well. BMW seem to have had a really good year. Ducati seems to have had a really good year. The stalwarts of the motorcycle industry in terms of big sales, Honda, continue to do really well. Great, impressive numbers. But there are other manufacturers, and you question, well, are they doing as well as we thought they might have been doing? Now, I don't necessarily think this is an indication of if a manufacturer is going to go bust or not. But when dealerships start closing down, not only in a particular country, but let's say all over the world, then you kind of think, well, what's happening? So here in the UK, for example, as far as I'm aware, there have been 3 Harley-Davidson dealerships that have closed down in the last month or so. 2 and I believe they're by the same business group, and that's in Manchester and Chester. And I'm not sure if they've gone bankrupt or whatever. I just read an article on it. Mid-January, they were closing down. I think they've been struggling financially for a long time. There's another Harley-Davidson and BMW dealership in another area of the country, Norwich. That closed in January as well. And I think the company, Lind there, I think they also own my local dealership. I think they're consolidating as well. So it kind of makes sense. If you're not going to keep a dealership open if you can't sell any of the products, or certainly sell them in big enough numbers. Now, I know in particular, Harley-Davidson have had a bit of an issue with their dealerships over the last year or so, because they've had this global kind of rebranding thing going on, and it's kind of been put onto the dealerships to, cough up the money to allow for this rebranding as well. So some would say, yeah, we're going to pay for it, and others would say, oh, hold on a minute, we're not going to pay for that. So I think there's a lot of that going on, of course. But I was also reading an article the other day when they were talking about electric motorcycles, and are they doing as well as, the green lobby would like you to think they're doing? Well, and I've always had this opinion. I think I've said this repeatedly on my channel, that electric motorcycles, cars are a different thing, but electric motorcycles, they are at their peak, as it were. Their strength lies in urban riding. So urban riding, you're up to 50cc, 125cc equivalent power. That's where they're going to take over the market. And I think they are starting to really gain a lot of ground into that low-powered motorcycle riding experience, right? And there's some great motorcycle companies, electric motorcycle companies, that are producing small bikes, small power bikes, but they're really, really cool as well, right? But recently, the news is that Cake, the electric motorcycle manufacturer, they're going bust, they're going bankrupt. And they're not the only one as well. So the question was, well, how many of the larger electric motorcycle manufacturers, well, how many bikes are they selling? And are they going to stay for much longer? And it doesn't look great. I mean, the numbers don't look good for any of those manufacturers. And if you take a big company like Harley-Davidson, who did they splintered off their electric bike into Livewire, they're still selling very small numbers of bikes. I think in the fourth quarter, they had a jump in sales because they released that S2 Del Mar. And I think got up to about 600 bikes or something. So their losses weren't as great as they should have been, but they're still losing millions each year. And they're still selling bikes that are quite high powered. And the 2 bikes that they're selling are quite, medium to high power bikes. And not many people are going to buy those in numbers that I'm talking about, in numbers. So it's always going to be the small bikes that are going to sell the most. That's why the likes of Honda, for example, They're always king in terms of motorcycle sales, and the Indian motorcycle manufacturers, they're always king as well, because they're always selling small displacement engine motorcycles, single cylinder, cheap, affordable modes of transport, right? That's what people want for mobility. So the electric bike market is kind of looking as if it's going the same way. This is also why the major motorcycle manufacturers have kind of been very, very slow in coming forward with their electric motorcycle offerings, because they can't really see the market being that great. If we take the economy over the last few years, well, there's been lots of factors that have been happening, not only globally in terms of COVID, in terms of supply chain issues, but also here in Europe, and certainly for the UK, we've got to talk about Brexit. Has there been a positive or a negative effect on the economy? There's lots of factors, of course, which affect the economy. But when we're talking about how many people are buying motorcycles, then we've got to look at the overall numbers. And I'm not too sure of the numbers here in Europe, or certainly on a global stage, of how many of the high-powered motorcycles are being sold today as opposed to, let's say, 5 years ago. But it does appear that they're slightly less. The market is shifted either to mid-range motorcycles and not the really expensive motorcycles, or certainly shifting towards the low-powered motorcycles as well. We're seeing this with companies like with Triumph. They're bringing out their 400cc bikes, and they're doing really well. Obviously, Harley-Davidson, they brought out their 440 in India. Yeah, and it's been doing quite well. But that's for the Indian market, of course. We're talking about a global sales. So if you've got motorcycle manufacturers that are still trying to pimp out the high profit bikes, but the unit sales are coming down, essentially your market is shrinking. The overall market is shrinking. And if you've got nothing to replace that, then you kind of wonder, well, how healthy is this industry? How healthy is the overall motorcycle industry? I'd say I don't think this is all doom and gloom, but far from it. And I think there's going to be lots of successes. But I think I've always said this, and if you follow my channel, and I've always kind of said this, I think the healthiest motorcycle manufacturers are the ones that offer a broad range of motorcycles in various capacities, let's say in engine sizes or power sizes. The ones that just offer high-powered ones, well, they've got a limited scope of how much they can sell. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have a diminishing market or their sales are going to diminish. But if the economic conditions are less favorable, let's say, then obviously they're the ones that are going to be impacted the most. And I look at other triggers. It's not just dealerships closing. It's not just the numbers of motorcycles that are being sold, but more maybe the amount of motorcycles that are unsold in dealerships, let's say. Or when you go to motorcycle shows, they're not as vibrant as they once were. There doesn't seem to have that great feeling anymore. It's more about trying to really push a product right now and trying to gain sales. And hey, can we sell you a bike today type thing? It's almost like the shows have become more of an extension of dealerships rather than them just showing their wares and promoting their products. It's almost like it's a sales avenue rather than a promotional avenue. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I'm right. It's just an impression that I'm getting. So if you think, so if you look at the market holistically, I'm just wondering how healthy it is, and can it get healthier? You would imagine it could. There's always going to be peaks and troughs in any industry. But, there's lots of factors now. There's lots of factors in play. And I think those motorcycle manufacturers who are looking at smaller bikes, but they're looking at small electric bikes as well, they're looking at a range of bikes, those are the ones that tend to prosper the most, rather than the manufacturers that are stuck in a narrow bandwidth. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What is the state of the motorcycle industry? Do you think it's healthy? Do you think it's growing, or do you think it's shrinking? I still haven't made up my mind. In all fairness, I'm still not sure which way it's going, whether it's going to be a good 2024 or a bad 2024 for motorcycle manufacturers. But ultimately, for you and I as the consumer, in terms of choice, in terms of value, I'm still not sure whether it's a good year or it's going to be an indifferent year or even a bad year. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you like what I do here, don't forget to like and share the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notifications bell for all future videos. And I will catch you again on another video coming very soon. Bye now.